Hey guys, so today you guys are in for a brutal game mode. If I can get my what the hell? It does not want to go there. There we go. Um, this is the Alive. This is, as you can see on the map, there's like it looks about like 30 things. It looks overwhelming. Don't worry, I'm going to try and go through each one of them and explain each one of them. Today I'm just going to show you force versus force. So no, this is not asymmetrical, also known as terrorism. Um, so first off, what you're gonna do is you're gonna those basic stuff you used from the other one. You're gonna go ahead and set them down. So as you can see, I just set up a little base. I have a respawn position. I'm all fancy. You're gonna import your options over. So I've already done that. I'll just do it again just because I'm cool. So there you go. Okay, so that's done. Now we're gonna go down the list. So all these are in order of when I put them down. So first of all, we're gonna go here. So alive required. That's the very first thing you need to set down. This is all the stuff you need to do for just the basic thing. So AI alive controls the AI distribution. You want it set to headless AI if you're running it on the fifth column server. Disable single player saves. Yes. Disable advanced markers. No. The advanced markers are kind of nice. Disable admin actions. No. Auto pause. No. You want all these. They're already set up. You just want it set up like that. That's fine. Hit OK. So next thing is the player options. You need this also. This is all. Make sure all these settings are same. Persistent player state. Yes. Them to reset themselves to their current session stating or manual. Yes. Allow manual save. No. Allow different class join. Very important. You have to have this set as yes, or they cannot replay and join some other class. And trust me, it is a pain in the butt trying to figure out what class you were from like the first to the second op. Um, Store loadout, yes. Ammo count, yes. Store health, yes. All these other ones will be yes. Going down here, modern tags. All this stuff is the vanilla settings. You don't have to really worry about it. So, next is the AI system. Enable debug, no. Persistent, yes. And then set this up. Synchronized options. And then active limiter. Make sure your settings match these because this is the vanilla setup, but sometimes it can get changed or maybe you messed it up. Pathfinding, don't mess with. Infantry C transport, don't mess with that. If you have C units, you can, but you have to kind of play with it and see what is actually okay. Next one, I use Acre, so basic mission setup for Acre, and it's actually a module under right here, and it's basic mission setup. You have to have it set down for the game for Acre to be able to work. So you go ahead and double click that after you set it. Channels per side enabled. Default radio doesn't matter. Babble per side. I have it set to no babble, but you can also have it per side with common. If we eventually add human enemies, we'll have this set so there's no babble. So yes, you can take people hostage, but for right now, you don't have to worry about this. But for your missions, if you want to set it up where you could technically take human enemies capture, you would set it to no babble, or you would set it to per side with common. So We're good there. Next, we're going to go to civilian placement, which is right here. You kind of want to make all these kind of like in a straight row. It keeps it kind of uncluttered and makes you be able to go to it. Okay, so enable, no. Tactical area responsibility marker. If you're not, this is only for civilians. So if you want them all over the map, then you can put nothing here. You can put nothing in the blacklist marker, and they'll spawn even at your base. Not bake, sorry. I put for the blacklist blue 4_1 so that I don't have to have them spawning. You can then set what objective size they'll filter. I have it do not filter so they show up everywhere. So it's kind of nice to see AI running around once in a while. Force faction, that's the civilian faction for the Serrani. No, for Chernoris civilians. I use this one because they kind of match more than the Middle Eastern ones. So, and then ambient vehicle faction, you'll do that. Placement low. Ambient vehicles I have to medium because it is kind of nice walking in through a town and seeing civilian vehicles. Next one is Game Master. I've already explained that one to you in the previous video. You can have as many Game Masters as you want. Okay. So, next one is the Military AI Commander. As you can see, it's connected to a bunch of stuff. So, I'm going to try and do these one at a time and explain what each of them do. So, Commander AI, this is our Commander AI. So, like right now, it's the U.S. Army Woodland. So control type, invasion, this is only for asymmetrical, for installations, unused. Roadblocks for asymmetrical, no. Reinforcements, constant. You're not really going to have to worry about it, but this allows you to also call in reinforcements to hold towns with the command pad, which I'll explain in a little bit. So intel, none. Faction, you'll set all these to none, but in the override, you'll put the custom faction name. You keep this the same and this the same. Very simple. So, we're branching off. Military placements. Oh, before I forget, for the blue 4 operation zone, you're going to set a blue marker, which will be under markers, and then it'll be under areas. So I just used an eclipse. This prevents enemies from spawning in here, so you'll put down an eclipse, and then you can name it. Sorry. I named it Blue 4-1. You can name it whatever you want, but this is the one you'll need when you're in game. Okay, so going back to military placement. You would say that the Blue 4's operational responsibility is in this area. This prevents, if you spawn AI, from them running out of the town and trying to take over the map. Blacklist is where they're not allowed to go, so you don't have to worry about that. The TFAR marker is where they spawn. So, operation size filter, don't filter, do not filter. Place units, objective only, company size, light infantry, none. We're all the way down here. Force faction, you want it to be the custom faction you're going to use. You don't need this. These are all fine. You can mess with them, and you could actually have two forces actively fighting and have a full war zone. It's up to you. I prefer doing it this way because it makes the humans feel like they're doing more, and then you could call reinforcements after you take towns. So the next part of this is you have to sync this. So you'll right click and hit connect, and then sync to, and then boom, you sync it to it. You sync it to the military AI commander. Next is the military logistics. These are the settings for it. So no, yes, static, force pull. You can have it set to infinite. This means this is how many both you and the AI commander can call. I have this set to infinite. You don't have to have it set to infinite. And then this allows stuff you can call in, or that the AI commander can. The way I have it set up is only the commanders on the field, so myself or other squad leaders can call stuff in with the tablet. Air transports, you want it set to faction only, obviously, because you don't want the U.S. Army calling in like the Zai or whatever. Next one, player. Oh, sorry, got ahead of myself. I have this set down here, military placement. This is, I usually set this up so that all the AI that you're calling via helicopter or plane will spawn at this area and then fly into Sarani. You can place it anywhere. Don't place it over enemy spawns. Put it somewhere where the AI is not going to go shoot it down as soon as it spawns. You can also do this if it's just a land map. You can set it on the land, and it'll allow convoys to come through. So these are the settings I have set up. This placement means this is a custom objective. It's a military placement custom objective. So this is a custom objective that you set, and that tells the AI, like mine's set really high, so it tells them this is very important. And then these are all the settings for it. Pretty simple. So next one. And this one is a doozy. So I put this up here. I usually put two different. I put a military, and then I also put a civilian objective. So military objective tells you the blacklist, and then it sets up all this for them. This is actually set up. This runs to the no, this is the human commander, but it'll also be linked to the enemy commander. So this tells them what are military positions. Then you'll go over here, and you have to sync that one. All the ones with blue lines, you have to sync them, and they have to be synced to the correct one. So this is the next one. This allows also tasking to happen. So this is civilian objective. So this is linked to our commander, so he knows what the objectives are too. All this is set up. I usually do override and set these to 0, because sometimes they'll spawn mechanized. Motorized is fine. Mechanized, if you're just starting off, is kind of a no-go, because I think it's like 1 to 14, so every 14 infantry you get a tank, or for every 7 groups of infantry you get a group of tanks. If you haven't read the wiki, I would suggest it, because it tells you what the setup ratio is. If you're not careful, you can get lines of tanks. Like a couple years ago when I first did a mission for this, I didn't set up the parameters right. I had 15 groups of infantry in a town, and about 30 armor came rolling down the hill towards us, and just it fucked up our day pretty much. So I set it to 0, and as we get better, I'll mess with more. So 0, 0, 0, and then this is important. Force faction. What faction is going to be placed? So you're going to set that to LOP SLA, or you're going to set it to the custom faction you're using. This one is the same thing. And you sync them to your commander and the enemy commander, because it then tells both sides what the objectives are. Now, this is very important. This is the enemy commander. So you always want to make sure everything is persistent. Control, they want to occupy. Installations, I don't know why I have that turned on. These are IEDs and stuff. You can set that to unused. Roadblocks can be used in non-asymmetrical, but it just means that they'll put roadblocks up on towns and stuff, which is kind of nice when you're rolling into a town and all of a sudden you have to fight a checkpoint. It's not just asymmetrical. You'll go down to so I set that to yes. You can set it to no, whatever you like. Reinforcements, constant. They try to reinforce areas that are having problems. And then intel, this is how often they drop intel. Faction, because we're using custom, we'll set all these to none. And then override factions, LOP _ SLA, which is the Liberation Army of Sahara, whatever the fuck this map's called, Sarani. So that one's synced to this. It's also synced to military, CQB, and military logistics. Let's do military logistics first. This is the same thing as before, but this you then can set what the force points. This is the number of groups. I have to stress this. This is groups. This is not single items. Each time they summon like a squad of infantry, that's 1 point away from the force pool. So technically right now we could fight up to 7,000 infantry. So the more objectives you take, the slower they are to respond. Because they'll start losing reinforcements. That part's not as important because then that goes into dynamic, which we're not going to use right now. So then you can set what they're allowed to call in for support. Yes, infantry, mechanized, no. We allow them to use motorized, yes. Armor, no. Helicopters, no. And planes, no. Air assets, faction only. You can turn any of these ones on. If you wanted, you could technically say they can get 50 extra troops, and they're going to be like their elite troops that they can only call. So we're going to go hit OK. And that was the military logistics, and it has to be synced. Military logistics has to be synced to the AI commander for the enemy team. The military placement has to be synced to both the military commander and the Blue 4 commander. Next is the military close quarters battle. This means when they garrison houses and stuff like that. I have it set to, these are the settings I use. 10% of the complete map, and it means like you have like a 1 in 10 of a building having someone in it. It tells the density, so how likely are the CQB placements. So this means like machine guns, anti-air, stuff like that. AI amount, how many infantry do you want to spawn in a CQB location? I have it set to a fire team, which is usually 2 to 4. It's 4. You have solo, pair, and then a fire team. Fire team is 4, pairs obviously 2, and solo obviously 1. Static weapons, low. Placement, static. This allows them to only use the faction from this faction list. So you don't this spawns so spawn heli and spawn jet, and you'll see spawn ground and spawn static weapon. This means whenever you're on ground, so spawn whatever. So if it's on ground, that's how far you have to be in that occupation. So if you're on ground, you have to be 700 meters for them to spawn in. If you're in a static weapon, they'll spawn 1,200 around you, a distance of 1,200. Spawn heli is 1,000. So if you're flying in, they'll start spawning as you're flying closer. And then jet is set to 0, so it kind of prevents people flying jets from hitting every single node and slowing the server down. Factions, LOPSLA, same one. You can do this on any map. I'm just trying to run through and explain these ones. Blacklist marker. So this is very important if you're going to do other maps. Blacklist marker is the marker that you don't want them spawned in. The TAOR marker you do not have to place, but if you only want them to spawn in an area, say you wanted to do force on force, if you only wanted them to spawn near the airport, and then they'd have to move out and capture other bases from there, you can set that here. Okay, that was, so name channels. This is more stuff for Acre. I can explain that more if you need more help for that. Go. That's pretty much it. Custom objective for them. This is essentially, when I set this up, this means that their main base is Bag and Go. Okay, that's, wow, I feel really dumb for not being able to say that the first time. So, Bag and Go. That's, God, I feel dumb. Okay, next part. Your missions don't have to use this. I use it because it's easier. Player combat support. This would be CAS support, trans support, and close air support. That means helicopters and planes. So, for example, you'll do this. I have it set to tablet. And then the respawn limit, how many they can respawn, how many transport, how many RD limit, and how long it takes them to respawn. Most people don't like using this because the AI is kind of clunky. It's kind of nice if you're a smaller group. I have VCOM disabled on these vehicles so they don't just try to land and take off, try to land and take off, try to land and take off, and try to land and take off. They get really, really annoying. You can give them call signs, vehicle type, and this is for transport, sling loading, all that good stuff. And then Eagle 1, this is CAS, this is a helicopter, this is an RHS H-64D. So, longbow, I believe? Yeah, longbow. You can give them call signs, names, and that's pretty much all that. And they all have to be synced to the combat support tablet. Whew, I'm getting a headache doing all this. Next part is the worst, I believe, which is... Yeah, here it is. So, the last and most important part, let's see. Ooh, no, I forgot about that too. Well, let's do this and then I'll get to that because this one ties into it. So this is the command and control. This is the tablet. I have it set to the item as the tablet. That's the best way to do it. There's an item in your arsenal box for this. So you want the faction to be the faction you're playing as, or you can use a custom one. It doesn't matter. You want their enemy faction to be the faction that you're fighting in game. You don't want to be like fighting the Seranis and then have the enemy faction be the Vipers. It'd look really weird because when you go for tasking, it'll spawn them. So tasking will give you... Well, let's go through the... Let me not get ahead. Tasking is missions that it'll pre-build. So when you open your command tablet, it'll ask you, well, what do you want tasking? And then you could say yes, and then you can also click what kind of tasking you want. There's like 30 different missions from like prototypes to hostage rescue. So go through there and look what you think, what you see, and what you like. Limit group. So these are the settings. You don't have to worry about setting this for this because you're usually not going to play Op 4. But if you were, you would then set it up like this. You'd set it up how I have the blue faction set up. Persistent, yes. You don't want auto tasking on because it starts pumping them out and it gets annoying. Limit command. Allow spectators, which means you can look through the tablet and see, technically, on their helmet cam. You can see what they're doing. Auto join, it allows you to join remote forces. I never use this. It kind of lets you teleport, so I don't use it. Display map intel. I usually set this to yes. Intel coverage, total coverage of intel. And then friendly coverage, that'll show you friendly markers and what zones you own. Military map sectors. You don't have to really do that. Actually, set display map intel to no, because then it tells you on the map who owns each square and stuff like that. It won't prevent you from learning intel, but it will pretty much. It just work. Just do what I say. Sector update time, player sectors. You can set this to yes, and it'll actually tell you when you own sectors on a map. And then you can set up the trace system, which shows you on the map what parts of the map you actually own. So, that was the harder part, I guess. Let's see. Here it is. Combat logistics. This doesn't actually have to be synced to anything, but you'll call in support with the Alive tablet, and then you can restrict it to the faction. Whitelist. faction, which would be the faction you're playing as or the faction you want to be able to call in for support. Allow airdrops allows them to airdrop the items. Allow helicopter or VTOL allows a helicopter or a vertical takeoff and landing, like an Osprey. Allow convoy. I have it set to no because we're in the middle of the. We're on an island in the middle of nowhere, so you can't really have them driving through the water. Then blacklist and whitelist, and then a radio message will tell you when you're done. So that is the gist of it. I'm sure I forgot stuff. If you need like one-on-one help or you want me to look at your mission, let me know and I'll gladly look at it. The best way to make sure that your stuff is correctly working is to play and then go to multiplayer, play your mission, jump into Zeus and fly over and take a look, see if the correct AI are spawning. Um, if you have like vanilla things spawning, it's because you haven't correctly set an override. Anything like that, feel free to message me and I'll try and help. As you can see, I only have one infantry set up, so you can set up as many as you want. Set up the respawn position, set up your Zeuses, your base, everything like that. Some people get fancy, some people don't. It's all up to you. I hope this helped you, and if you have any questions at all, feel free to message me.